Welcome back to the PI show. Tonight we're talking about assaults and damage arising from people attending nightclubs and bars and things like that. And we've got an interesting case that arose in Sydney in December 2002, which is someone called Luke Quintano, 24-year-old car salesman, attended a club at 2:30 with his friends. And after that, he says that the friends might have been drinking. He was relatively sober, and he was going to work the next day. Now, a fight broke out. Luke jumped in to help his friend who was on the dance floor, and the judge found 30 seconds later someone pulled a gun and shot Luke in the head, and he had brain damage arising from that. Now, what did the club do that was wrong?
Well, they didn't have enough security, I think. Isn't that the case, Nuncio? I mean, they had 2 security guards, and the judge went through all the evidence about,
But Tony, someone pulls out a gun and just shoots someone.
Well, that's an interesting point too, because I think... Sorry, Nuncio.
That's right. No, the court found that should there been an extra security person available at the time, it would have prevented the accident. They thought that it would have prevented it.
Well, the security at the time, I think, was 2 security guards, and at the time had a licence for 400 people, but I think 200 people.
There's 200 people at the time when this incident occurred. 200
people, 2 or 3 o'clock. Is that normal, Nuncio? 200, 300 people at these sort of clubs at night?
That's yes, no.
Is it? And if they'd had, is it feasible? Is it likely that a third security guard would have stopped someone pulling out a gun and shooting someone?
They might have been able to break up the fight. That's the key to it, because I can't say you could possibly stop someone that wants to shoot someone
pulling out a gun.
Pull out a gun. But at least, if you had the third person there, it might have just diffused the whole thing.
What was interesting in this case was that there was a security agency employed by the club, and they found when they had a previous meeting prior to the incident that further security was required for the club, and the owner did not take that on board. So
there was a lot of issues about security with this club and the security company. Because what happened was, I think the security company took the club to court for not getting their bills paid. So I think they pulled back on some security because of that.
So they were cutting corners?
Yeah, they were. They were cutting corners. They weren't taking it seriously, I think.
And as a result, if they'd had... I think they had 1 security guard at the entrance and 1 security guard who was in and out just patrolling, 200 patrons. So
dance floor, the bar, and etc.
Yeah, and you say that if they'd had the extra security guard, they could have stopped.
They could have probably diffused it, and guns wouldn't have been pulled out. Who knows?
And I think Nuncio raised an interesting point about whether the club should have metal detectors.
I think it's about time they do it, Harry.
To stop people taking guns into nightclubs. So,
fortunately, it might be the way of the world now.
Well, I reckon they've got to get metal detectors. They've got to do away with glasses and use plastic cups. I think it's outrageous what's going on. A lot of these things could be prevented.
But in this case, Luke, as I say, was a 24-year-old car salesman. He couldn't work again following head injuries, brain damage.
He got ruined, Harry. I mean, it was a big payout. What was the figure?
He got $6.5 million.
Shows the extent of it.
And $3.5 million was for future medical expenses.
Well, he's effectively can't function.
Yeah, so a 24-year-old, can't work again, but he needs extensive care. But interestingly enough, what did the judge find in terms... The defendant raised the issue about that if Luke hadn't jumped into a brawl, he knew he was taking on some danger or risk, he shouldn't have got any money whatsoever.
Well, the court found that the fact that Luke did jump in and assist his friends, that he was 50% to blame for his injuries, so he reduced his damages by half.
Well, does it mean that the judge could have found that there was no neg? Is that possible? Or?
Yeah, look, I think 50% reduction is harsh. I thought a fairer figure might be 20%, but that's what the judge... He heard all the evidence, so...
it's a pretty big judgment, so you'd imagine that the plaintiff in this case wouldn't be functioning at all.
Yeah,
You know,
on those figures.
yeah,
on those figures.
Yeah, it's
but,
pretty sad, very tragic.
But 50% I thought was high, but probably in the end doesn't make a lot of difference to Luke, who, as Tony says, it's not really functioning at all. But and public liability insurance would have paid all of that.
Yeah, well, 'cause most occupiers do take out public liability insurance and to prevent to pay out these type of incidents. And in this case, he was lucky there was an insurer involved.
But there are a lot of cases where the security companies don't have insurance, or they fail to pay insurance. They go into liquidation and things like that. So it can be a problem.
The next case we've got is again a case in Sydney, in Oxford Street, where there was again an incident outside a nightclub, and the person who sued in this case was Mr. Mahina, who was a bouncer, I think, at the club, a security guard.
Security guard, yeah.
And he was injured by a patron who
Shot him. 3 times he shot him.
Once in the backside.
He got him in the head, the chest, and the backside. I think he turned away and he used a bit of cushioning. But, I don't want to make a joke of it, but sadly he was pretty badly damaged, this bloke.
And what was the negligence? Why was the owner of the nightclub negligent?
In this case, there was a brawl that broke out the front. A bit of a scuffle, and there was threats made to this particular plaintiff, mentioning that they were going to come back and get him. They eventually did act upon that and came back and shot him. The plaintiff in this case was, scared of the threats. Asked his employer whether he could either be rotated inside or alternatively just go home because he was scared for his safety, and he didn't.
No, you're not the owner. He gave him baseball bats instead.
What?
If you gave him a machine gun, I could understand.
No, but he armed them with baseball bats because the owner did anticipate some trouble. Because I think the scuffle led to someone bleeding. Maybe they were punched.
No, there was a lot of bleeding, and the guy was injured. The fellow that made the threats was, by the sounds of it, very injured. So he wanted to get revenge.
So he probably went to the car, got a gun, and came back.
Well, he damaged the car
actually,
on
the
way
person
out.
who fired the shots was the brother of the
brother.
the brother of the.
So
person
he was taking revenge on behalf of his brother.
Yeah.
So he would have communicated the person who was